Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review for day 13 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. So today we're going to take a look at a horror movie, a horror anthology, actually another one. It's that time of the series again to throw in a horror anthology. This is actually a follow-up, a sequel to one that I did in my May series, my May 31 horror movie series this year, earlier this year, which was VHS. So, of course, naturally, today we're going to be taking a look at VHS 2. What did I have on DVD here from 2013? Comes with some special features there. So, yeah, I don't have the Blu ray of this one, but got a nice DVD pack here. So yeah, VHS 2. So, I'll just say straight off, if you watch my review for the first VHS when I reviewed it as part of my May series, you know that I wasn't the biggest fan of it, especially for horror anthology. I thought it was okay. Like I think I liked half the stories, like two out of the four or five, and I didn't love them, but I liked them, and yeah, I had my issues with it. I will say I like VHS two more, so I'll just get that out there right off the bat. So let's just get into the synopsis. So, VHS 2 is a 2013 found footage horror anthology film produced by Bloody Disgusting. A sequel to VHS, it comprises four found footage segments linked together by a fifth frame narrative. VHS 2 features largely a different group of directors, ranging from Jason Eisner, Gareth Evans, Timo Tijanto, Eduardo Sanchez, Greg Hale, and franchise returnees Simon Barrett and Adam Wingard. The film is presented as an anthology of short horror films, but into a frame narrative, which acts as its own short horror film. Each short film is linked together with the concept of found footage. Each segment is from the VHS tapes found in the first film. So basically, what you got here, kind of like the first movie, you've got people that stumble onto a certain location and stumble across these VHS tapes that basically say "Play Me." Um, in this movie, it's a little bit different. In the first movie, you had like a group of like not gangsters, but they were like a group of criminals, if you will, bad guys. In this movie, you have a couple of private investigators that at a mother's request is looking for her missing son, basically. So they go into like his dorm room or his apartment, whatever it is, and he's actually got both all these VHS tapes, and then he's also has a recording going on his computer, his laptop, a video recording going. And then you watch some of that, and he kind of tells you about the VHS tapes and stuff. So that's kind of how you get into the frame narrative. So kind of a little bit different than the first movie, but kind of the same as well. Um, so that's entitled Tape 49. That's the frame narrative prologue, which was directed by Simon Barrett and written by Simon Barrett as well. Um, so you have the only cast that I'm going to give you for this whole movie because there's way too many is Lawrence Michael Levine plays Larry, one of the PIs, and then Kelsey Abbott plays Aisha, who's the other PI. So that's all I'm going to give you for cast because otherwise I'd be listing them for each segment. So of course, Aisha's the one that watches the videotapes while Larry goes and looks through the apartment and try to find clues and stuff like that. So the first tape she puts in and watches is entitled Phase One Clinical Trials. This one's directed by Adam Wingard and written by Simon Barrett. And this is one about a guy um, who was in a car accident and ended up losing his eye. I think it was it his right or his left eye? I don't know. No, one of the eyes. And he basically gets like this glass, technology laden glass eye. It's not just a glass eye. It's like some kind of scientific breakthrough deal with it too. Um, so yeah, it opens with him being in a doctor's office and getting that eye checked out and in place, and then he goes home and starts noticing some stuff, some things that he's seen, some pretty disturbing things actually, and around his house and stuff. He has a very nice house, by the way. I'm not sure what this guy does, but he's making some coin, that's for sure. And then there's another character that he sees as he's leaving the hospital that ends up coming to his house and kind of giving the exposition dump that they feel that we need, and kind of telling this character that's got the eye, kind of her experience and what's happening and stuff. And So yeah, that's basically, and it has a pretty violent conclusion. I'll get into my thoughts on all these as I get into my review, but I'm just giving you the synopsis right now for these. So that's the first one. Then the second tape she puts in is a ride in the park, and this is one about a guy who's talking to his girlfriend on the phone while he's got a GoPro on his head. He's on a bike and he's biking through a park, obviously like an outdoor park, and after he gets off the phone with her, he stumbles upon a person that's bloody and needs help, and then there's some other people walking towards him that he can't really see off in the distance, and um, yeah, this one gets pretty crazy. Kind of a zombie. This is kind of the zombie segment here, and I don't know how much I want to give away. Probably not too much, but let's just say it goes pretty crazy. That's how it opened. This guy kind of joined some other characters, some other of those that he runs across, and to wreak havoc on a certain birthday party that's taking place outside. So I'll leave it at that. Then the next tape she puts in, and by the way, while she's putting in these tapes, she's kind of becoming this is Aisha, by the way, in the main story. She's kind of becoming more hypnotized, and I think it's after this next one she gets a bloody nose and like a migraine headache as well. So these tapes are having some kind of an effect on her. But the next one she puts in is entitled Safe Haven, and this is kind of the cult one. This one's about a cult and this group of young people. I think there's four of them, a guy and a gal who's they're a guy and his fiance basically who's pregnant, his best friend, and then another guy who's like a camera guy. They go into this cult kind of place in Indonesia to do some like videotaping and interviewing, and yeah, this one goes batshit crazy too. Once a certain bell rings, from there on out is there's a lot of violence in this one, a lot of blood, a lot of disturbing stuff that goes on, but yeah, basically they have to fight to survive and try to escape. That's what this one boils down to. And then the final segment we get is Slumber Party Alien Abduction, which if that isn't the best name for a short story title, I'm not sure what is. They definitely wanted you to know what it was about. This is one. This is one about a group of young kids and an older sister and her boyfriend that they're like the first 10 or 15 minutes are basically playing pranks on each other and screwing with each other. There's a lot of bad language and a lot of suck my dick kind of talk, as you would expect from like teenagers and kids that are 12 or 13. But there's one scene early on where they're like swimming in the water, and as one of them goes down under the water, there's like an image in the background, very alien kind of image, and for good reason. And then ultimately, while they're playing pranks on each other, and they kind of get one side kind of gets the other's back. There's this loud, like almost like crescendo noise that kind of just stops everybody what they're doing, and then the lights go out, and yeah, it basically becomes survival of the aliens that are on attack after that, and there's some this is at night for the most part, and so yeah, that's basically what that is. Starting out as a slumber party, turning into a trying to escape an alien abduction, just like the title would say. And then we get back. The film ends with the tape 49 frame narrative epilogue, um, which they find out there's a little more to the story than looking for their son when they go back or when they go to investigate this mother's request to find the son. They basically you get that twist, of course, um, what the deal with the son is and stuff, and yeah, I don't want to give too much away there, but it's VHS. You know it's not going to end well for certain people. So let's get into my review part of it now. So the biggest pro I have over the first one for sure, and I don't want to go back and forth and compare this one to VHS, but I'm going to because it's inevitable and it's hard to avoid. But I think all four of these stories, not counting the framing story tape 49, all four of the shorts are really effective for what they are. I really liked them all, to be honest with you. This wasn't one where there's a clunker or a dud in the bunch for me. I think that, like I said, they were all effective for what they were going for. Um, and yeah, I have my favorites, and certainly I'll rank them for you here before the end of this video, my favorite to my least favorite. But I didn't despise any of them or dislike any of them. They're all effective for what they are. They're all well directed. I think they get their point across pretty well in all of them, and there's some fun and humor along the way in a couple of them, and scares as well. I do think the wraparound story, well, it's still not one of the greatest wraparound stories. I don't think VHS is going to be known for top notch wraparound stories. This one, to me, is an improvement over the first VHS movie. It just looks better. It's better video quality. It's easier to focus on what's going on. The first one was very grainy and it was choppy. This one have where they're part of having the view through the video camera on the computer for the young man is helpful here. Um, but yeah, I like the wraparound more for sure. It wasn't as hard to see or focus on, and better steady cam footage. And I enjoyed the end of it, sort of the wrap up to the movie overall. I thought it was creepy and it had a more interesting twist than the first VHS movie did. So next pro, this movie is insanely gory. Two segments in particular, the middle two, which would be a ride in the park and safe haven. Um, Phase one clinical trials has a little bit of blood and gore. I don't think there's a whole lot in Alien Abduction. That one probably has the least amount, but yeah, if you're a gore hound, you'll like VHS too. It's insanely gory and bloody. And they really ratchet it up from the first movie. Lots of violence, a lot of violent blood and gore that is very effective and realistic. Actually, it isn't over the top or fake. Very realistic, which makes it even scarier. It adds to the horror of the overall movie, in my opinion, through all the blood and gore. Um, I have to say, there's some genuinely creepy and even scary parts to this movie. There really are. I thought the first segment there were some scary parts. The clinical trials. Ride in the Park was more fun, I would say, than it was scary. Just balls to the walls fun. Safe Haven is definitely that might be the one that one's definitely the most disturbing, and it's got some scares in it. And even the Alien Abduction one, I had some effective scares, more jump scares, of course, with the loud noises and the lights and everything in that one. But yeah, there's I was looking over my shoulder once or twice watching this one, more so than I remember doing with the original VHS. So yeah, not only is it gory and bloody, but it's also genuinely scary at certain points. Um, Very effective horror. Much better overall camera work, in my opinion, in this one. Not as nauseating to watch as the first movie in terms of the shakiness of the camera, the editing. I feel like there's better overall video quality here. They might have had more. It seemed like they had more of a production value, even though I know these are pretty low. They're pretty low budget horror anthology movies, but it just seemed like more of a production value with this one. It just looked better. The use of the POV zombies we get in the segment "A Ride in the Park." That's definitely one of the highlights of this movie. There's this guy on his bike has a GoPro on his head, and it comes into existence for zombie purposes later in the segment, and that was really cool and unique. I enjoyed the zombie point of view as it adds to the effectiveness of the overall segment. So that was definitely a highlight of this movie. All the segments in the entire movie is really well paced too. Again, more so than the first movie, in my opinion. Just the right amount of stories. I think four to go along with the wraparound was just right. I think five in the first movie plus having a wraparound was too many. Um, but yeah, very good pacing. Each of the stories was about the right amount of time. None of them really dragged. They gave the right amount of time to each individual story. Easy to watch. That's the biggest thing about this movie. I found it to be overall easier to watch than the first VHS. Obviously, the movie also has some really talented filmmakers involved, from the camera work to the use of shadow and light to the sound design, gore, and definitely the makeup effects are top notch here. And the overall story and writing, I think, too, in this movie is very solid. So those are my pros for VHS too. Really an enjoyable watch. Do have a couple of cons, of course, with it. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. They still overuse glitch trope a little too much, where the screen gets distorted. The sound that's hard on the ears, that glitch sound that they use, especially in the final segment with the aliens. That's where it really stands out the most, and I would say the worst, because I'm not a big fan of that. So there's still a little bit of that here, but they did clean it up quite a bit from the first one. The zombies and the ride in the park one, they do have obvious contact lenses that don't look great. It's obvious that they're wearing contact lenses, so that's something that stuck out in a negative way. there's a pretty big plot hole regarding the end of the wraparound and therefore the end of the movie where you find out that the character that they're looking for basically does something with a gun to himself. And apparently, according to this story, it happens right before, like literally as they're approaching his apartment, there's a gunshot wound. But apparently, they don't hear it initially when they go into the apartment. When the PIs enter the house, they wouldn't hear a gunshot wound or that gunshot being fired. Really, that's a huge plot hole there. Also, I have to mention in the final segment, Slumber Party Alien Abduction. At the end of that, a dog gets dropped onto the ground from a very high spot, which was pretty rough. I would think for most people, even if they're into horror, you never want to see a pooch take a fall like that. And they linger on it too as the pooch is whimpering. So that might have been the toughest thing to watch in the whole movie. Actually, it might be for a lot of people anyway. So. And then finally, my final comment is some of the acting, as you would expect in these movies, isn't great. Although I thought the acting might have been a little bit better actually in this one than the first one. The dialogue is rough though, as it was in the first one, as I'm sure it is in the ones after this one. Um, especially, excuse me, those two things really stand out the most in the Alien segment. When you got the young actors and actresses, the acting's bad there. The dialogue is cringy to say the least. Um, Other than that, the other ones I didn't think the acting was better. I would say in the other three segments, and the dialogue was still not the best, but it wasn't as bad as the Alien one. So yeah, that's all I have for VHS two as far as my review. I definitely enjoyed this one more. This is going to be. I'm not going to tell you that it's one of my favorite horror anthologies. Me being a big fan of horror anthologies, but I do definitely like it more than the original VHS. I still have yet to watch VHS Viral and VHS 94, but from what I've heard about them, this will probably continue to be my favorite of the VHS franchise, but we'll see. Time will tell. But I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I thought for what it was, I went into it hesitant, of course, knowing that it's found footage and a lot of shakiness, and especially my experience with the first movie, but I was pleasantly surprised. Not that there isn't still some of that there, some of the same problems as the first movie, but the segments are a lot better in this, and there's a lot of fun to be had, as well as a lot of horror and scares to be had. This movie kind of has it all. I think it sums it up really well, and 8.5 out of 10 for VHS too. Definitely check it out, and I would even recommend purchasing it. So go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen VHS 2. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to give you my segment order here. I almost forgot to do that. Comment that down below, too. What's your favorite segment of this VHS 2? Mine goes this way. My favorite is A Ride in the Park, which is the zombie segment. It's just so balls to the walls fun. My second favorite, I had to go back and forth between 2 and 3, but I think I'm actually going to give Phase 1 Clinical Trials my second favorite because there was some really creepy imagery and very effective scares in this one, and really good camera work as well. Then third, I'm going to go with Safe Haven, which is probably a lot of people's favorite. That's the cult one. Definitely the most disturbing. And there's a lot of blood and gore in this one too. It was very effective, and I did like it. But that's going to be third. And then Slumber Party Alien Abduction, which I still did like, but that's going to come in fourth place as being my least favorite. My least favorite being one that was still effective and I still like. So that's my order of favorite to least favorite. Go ahead and, like I said, comment down below your order. What you guys think of VHS 2. Do you like it more than the first one like I do? Why not? Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content for the rest of the year and beyond. So thank you for watching this review. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay scared. Bye.